with some protocols. The chairperson of the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee, represented by the Honorable Kandie, the Honorable Joshua Kandie. He's a diasporan. I asked him why he didn't speak German. He chose to use it on another occasion. Madam Roslyn Jogu, Principal Secretary, State Department for Diaspora Affairs. Principal Secretary is present here, and senior government officials. Steve Jackson, Madam Sharon Demange, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, and members of the Diplomatic Corps present, private sector members, distinguished guests, and most of all, our diaspora. Hamjambo. Muko salama? Kabisa? Muko gangari? Now, the two ladies who have spoken here, actually there are three. Sharon spoke, Helen has spoken, and the PS has spoken. I don't have to read my speech. They've done an excellent job. They have actually brought out the very, very important issues around what we want to do in terms of the diaspora. So I will not take you down that road. So allow me just to make a few comments, and then we can move forward. First of all, let me thank Madam Roslyn, who has been very passionate in pushing the whole diaspora agenda. To be honest, even the ordinary Kenyan does not require to be told what diaspora means anymore. She has done a good job. And when we were launching our broader foreign policy, which is now a sessional paper, and the public participation process has also been launched by Parliament, we had said that one of the things we want to do is to make sure that Kenya's foreign and diaspora policy is not foreign to Kenyans. We want it to be owned by the people of Kenya. So I want to tell you that I'm a very proud Cabinet Secretary, that the whole element of demystifying issues around the diaspora have been done very well. Pongezi to you and your entire team. I also want to thank Parliament, and I'm doing so because we are going to need them, especially at the next phase. When it comes to legislation, it's absolutely essential that Parliament works with you, and when they're represented here and they listen to you and they become part of this process, they will definitely enrich the legislative framework that is so important to anchor what we have been talking about, what we intend to do, and how we intend to do it. So, Parliament, I thank you for supporting us, but I also say, please don't tire, because we need you for the next very critical steps. I want to thank the partners who have supported the diaspora team and the entire framework of the foreign affairs for working with us systematically, not just verbally, but some of you have supported us in some of the workshops, in some of the research that has gone into producing the document that is in front of you. And I want to say asante sana for giving us that support. And definitely this is a moving target, so we will need your support constantly as we go forward. To the diaspora, the truth is you cannot be ignored anymore. At all. In 2022, your remittances were about $4 billion US dollars. By the end of 2024, the remittances had hit 4.95 billion, basically 5 billion US dollars of remittances from the diaspora. You have surpassed our earnings from tea, from coffee, from tourism. There you are. I can give more and more. But what you're able to bring back to this country has definitely had a stabilizing effect. Kenya today is boasting of about 4.5 months cover of foreign reserves. That, I think, is close to about 10 billion US dollars in reserves. So, your contribution is now very, very important in making sure that we have a stable financial system. And I can tell you, if you're an investor, that is one thing you look for. How stable is their financial system? So you as the diaspora are making a very, very significant contribution in stabilizing our economic situation. I want to flag one thing or two. One, the question that we need to ask ourselves is diplomacy a straight line anymore? I think in the last few months, we have now all learned that things can change so rapidly. You can get a tectonic shift in the whole environment within a very short time. Basically, an earthquake can hit. And it can alter a lot of things. We are now seeing that this kind of shift within the geopolitical arena has caused a lot of disruption. We are going to, all governments, both developed and middle income and developing governments, all have to look at the whole issues afresh. The health sector in Kenya and globally, especially for the global south, has just received a major shock. A serious one. We have our brothers and sisters in Kenya, for instance, who require ARV, medicine and so forth. The government of Kenya would support to the tune of 60%, and we are relying on our partners to the tune of 40%. That's the Kenyan ratio, roughly. give or take a few percentage points. In some of the other countries, there's literally no local contribution. They're totally dependent on the international support. Now, we have reached a situation, what do we do? Do we let our citizens in all these countries perish because there has been an earthquake in the overall scenario? Or do we wake up to some realities and start re-engineering ourselves? Obviously, we will have to, because we have to save lives. Our constitution demands that every Kenyan must be entitled to health care, hence the word universal health care as we are pushing it. So some shocks are coming in. And it's within this framework that we shall need the innovation, the prowess of the diaspora to also help us deal with this challenge now that it's beginning to hit directly and hitting very hard. Within the Kenyan context, I can only say that we now must graduate from complaining about the universal health care to actually now saying, let us identify the specifics that ought to be corrected so that this universal health care can work. This should now be the debate. Because we have all seen it, that it is no longer, nobody is going to underwrite the health care of the people of Kenya. It has to be underwritten by Kenyans themselves. These are the harsh realities. And in so many other sectors, because, as I said, the earthquake has taken place. You can decide where the epicenter is, it's up to you. But the vibrations, the tremors are beginning to be felt far and wide. And they're going to be felt up to the smallest earning citizen in all our countries. So, what do we do? How does the diaspora work with us? How do we work with the diaspora so that we can fill in some of these challenges? The other thing is, as we go forward, we may start having to focus. Are we sure that the remittances will always be on an upward trajectory? That's another question that we must answer. Collectively, are we sure that we shall see the growth that I've talked about from 4 billion to 5 billion? Are we sure it will continue that way? Or are we also now in a situation where we must now open our eyes to the fact that this very earthquake that I'm talking about could also affect the ability of our diaspora to be as supportive as they would want to be? Sometimes they want to, but maybe circumstances are going to have an impact, and that could call for policy shifts. Maybe the current generation of the diaspora still has strong linkage with their respective countries. What happens 5 generations from now? Will there be similar attachment in this changing global world? with the diaspora with their base? Or are we also going to see some adjustments? These are critical questions that I wanted to put before you, because you are men and women of intellect, that as we go forward, let us think broadly about some of these issues so that we can make Kenya a better place, but we can also provide opportunities for everybody, whether investment and others. And indeed, the ladies did talk about the bond that I referred to. We are talking both with the Treasury and other players so that we can get to the stage where we can also harness the resources of our diaspora more meaningfully, more positively. And I gave the example that if, for instance, we wanted to have some very critical infrastructure, I gave the example some time back of the Jomo Kenyatta Airport as an example. If we package it well, and we have a prospectus that makes a lot of sense, I can tell you the diaspora can fund and finance a new airport. If we want to continue being the key artery into the corridor, that is the 300 million people plus population of the East African community, we can work out, and the diaspora can do a proper dual carriageway, some sections tolled so that there is a return, and we can have a dual carriageway all the way to the Uganda border in Malaba and be able to open up the economies of that region and give more impetus to our growth. So there's a lot of potential. And that is why I told Rosalind that even if I've come from my safari, I think I will still come so that we can have this conversation, because we have been having a lot of conversations in our society that seem to take away the fundamental issues that we need to talk to, and we sometimes get immersed in trivialities. So today, let this be a moment when we can look at very solid issues and reflect on them and see what we can do together, working with the diaspora. I would like you to have well-organized special purpose vehicles set up by the diaspora. Well-organized special purpose vehicles. If we are talking of PPPs, public-private partnerships, it would be so good if within the diaspora framework there are special purpose vehicles that can have a significant impact and partnership in some of these programs, so that our effort is not just scattered in little drops, but we can have our effort collated and put in very, very significant blocks that can alter the policy levels and the thinking that we have in different investment programs. Why should we, in the Ministry of Trade or in the Ministry of Treasury, Why should we gazette a special economic zone for our partners from Asia or from Europe, and we cannot gazette a special economic zone for our diaspora? To take up some serious manufacturing or to take up some serious innovative program and then use that as a launch pad for export. All these things can be done. It's only a question of us really pulling together. So I thought that I should veer away from my written remarks and talk to you from the heart. On some of these issues. It could be politics. We are now seeing situations where the Kenyan diaspora are staging demonstrations against their own country in certain places. Rightly or wrongly so, but it's their right. But we are seeing this. I don't think that is where we want to go. I think we want to start working on a more organized approach to some of these things. A few days ago, not on another trip, I was in Geneva, and I went to meet with the UN High Commission for Human Rights. And believe you me, even though sometimes we have bloody noses from our own local issues, where we punch each other and we don't look so good, but comparatively, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights still said that in spite of your bloody nose because of your local issues, you, Kenya, can still host a multi-country center for human rights in the region. Why do I bring this out? I bring this out because in Kenya, you are the media hub. In the entire region, there's nobody, no other sister state that has got the kind of media hub that you have, where people can speak freely. Take it seriously. Don't just throw it away. It's the reality. You in Kenya, as we speak to these things, in spite of the bloody noses we have locally because of punching each other, tell me another government in the region that faces the kind of litigation that the Kenya government faces in our judicial environment, and the same government loses several cases. Let us be realistic. It's a reality check. Because we keep on communicating, saying that we are the worst. You are not the worst. Even when some of our friends want to demonstrate, they don't demonstrate in their capitals, they come and demonstrate in Nairobi. For or abrogations that they feel have happened in their home ground. But they demonstrate in Nairobi. Ask yourself the very fundamental question, why? Kwa nini? Mbona hawakwenda kucheza hiyo dansi kwao? Wamekuja kuicheza hapa Nairobi. So there are some issues which are good. And for this, we must say hats off to the Kenyans who participated in ensuring that we all got the 2010 Constitution, which has safeguarded our liberties. Some of you are in this hall. You participated. Let us defend that Constitution. And as we defend the Constitution, let us do it positively. Let us not cut our noses to spite our face. Let us work together, and there's so much potential. And ladies and gentlemen of the diaspora, I am here to tell you, you have a partner. You have a partner in this journey. We at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are going to work with you, so that the very clear and noble objectives of our Kenyans in different parts of the country will be recognized. When I went to Australia, I went to Brisbane, and I met some of the good Kenyans there. And as we were walking into the lift, into the Prince Charles Hospital in Brisbane, the lift door has a huge mural. Then, for a moment, a life-size mural. The person who was ushering me in is the one who was on the lift. His mural was on the lift. His image was on the lift. This is a Kenyan of high intellect working in that hospital. A researcher who had come from Kilifi, a malaria program and all this, Kemri. And now he's in Australia, and they're at the verge working with his counterparts in Australia, and I really wish it happens. They are on the verge of making a major breakthrough in the medical field, which, if it goes through, could easily put them on the list of those who could vie or who could be in competition for a Nobel Peace Prize in that area. We cross our fingers. I went to West Virginia in the US, and there are Kenyan doctors working in a consortium with a few of the partners from Zimbabwe, where my sister stands out for. And they have actually taken over a pharmaceutical plant, and they are now beginning to manufacture medicine, and more so medicine that will help us deal with sickle cell anemia. And you know very well, in malaria-prone areas, sickle cell anemia becomes quite prevalent. But the cost can be prohibitive. And for the younger children, it can become very difficult if it is always in capsules. So they are also finding a way of converting this into medicine that can be palatable for even the infant. And I was telling them, once you are through with this process, it would be important that you become one of the key suppliers on the Kenyan scene, so that KEMSA and others can buy medicine from you and be able to deal with sickle cell challenges in the region. These are people in the diaspora. And you can name many others. You all have examples of your own. So let us now elevate our conversations to the next level. One level is the legal framework, but the other level, which I think is even perhaps more important, let this earthquake remind us that we can no longer waste time looking for the smaller things in our villages. Let us seriously elevate this conversation to the higher pedestal so that we can find solutions, both for the nation, but also for the well-being of each individual citizen. Because a prosperous individual citizen contributes to a prosperous nation. So we now must galvanize our efforts in that direction. So I think I've said enough. And I can assure you, if I had read the speech, I would not have felt so relieved. I certainly feel very relieved. And the gentleman you saw here, called Mureu, he didn't tell you, there wasn't full disclosure, but I'll disclose a little more. We grew together in Kangemi. That is where we stayed with him. We were neighbors in Kangemi, and we played soccer together as young people. He went to Sterehe, then I went to Nairobi school. I ended up playing rugby, and I found myself in politics. I think he was wiser. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and may I say that we are now ready to launch the Diaspora Policy formally, and then we can all mingle and say jambo to each other. Asante sana, thank you for listening to me.